Okay, well, welcome everyone. I am live. I guess I was live. I've been live for 26 minutes. This is Mike Dotterer, and I'm on the dot, and I have a very special guest that I'm going to bring on in a few minutes. But I want to first thank my sponsors. I want to thank Euphoria Science. I want to thank Club Nirvana. I want to thank Super Draft Pro. I want to thank 98 Unlimited. I want to thank Seymour Putters out of Nashville, Tennessee, and my good friend and CEO, Jim Grunberg. And I want to thank 007, my good friend, Andre Nicasso in Las Vegas. And a shout out to Russ Bourne, who is growing his social network. And many of those companies I just mentioned, Russ knows about. And that's what the 401 network is. What's happening right now in our economy is we're moving toward a sharing economy, and every company is rewarding sharing. For example, Bitcoin. There's a exchange called Coinbase. They reward sharing. It's amazing, and what's happening with Bitcoin. Highly recommend everyone out there look up dollar cost averaging and look up how Warren Buffett took dollar cost averaging 50, 60 years ago. And that's the genesis of Berkshire Hathaway. And every American needs to know about dollar cost averaging. And you can do that with Bitcoin. And Coinbase is a wonderful exchange to help you. They're a publicly traded company. And that's the beginning. The next thing you want to be able to know is how to take ownership of your bank. You become the bank. You take charge of your finances. Just like with health, with Euphoria. Euphoria is about going from healthcare to self-care. So, any event, that's my little pitch. Thank you to all our sponsors. And now I get to bring on my very special guest, and it's someone I've known since 1969. In 1969, he was born, and I was 9 years old. And I remember he had this beautiful curly hair. I think he came out with, he looked like Jesus. There's no doubt about it. He looked like Jesus. And he had the long curly locks, and he became an outstanding student. He graduated from MIT, and he was also an outstanding student athlete where he played baseball and hockey. He was on the baseball and hockey team at MIT. And he's my cousin. That's why I know so much about him. He's my first cousin, my father's brother's son. And what also makes it interesting is his name, my cousin Henry Dotterer, Henry John Dotterer. That was supposed to be my name because I'm older and I was the oldest grandson. And the oldest grandson is supposed to get the name Henry because my name came from my dad. He was the oldest son. His name was Henry. And his father, which was Henry's grandfather, his name was Henry, and his father's name was Henry, and it goes back a long way. And unfortunately, my Canadian mother said, nope, we're not going to name you Henry. We're going to name you Michael John. So the next oldest son was Henry, my cousin, and his father, my Uncle Tom, and their mother, Joanne, said, we're going to name him Henry, and we're going to keep the tradition alive. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on. And there's so much to talk about. I really, Henry, welcome. Henry John Dotterer on the dot.
Thank you, Michael. Nice introduction. I have another distinction. Maybe you were supposed to get the name. I was supposed to be a professional athlete. I have the distinction of being the first man in the family in 3 generations that is not. So I'm wearing my my NFL alumni hat that I stole from you when you were staying here.
Well,
dreaming of my former professional career.
Well, Henry, you made a wise decision. You went to one of the great schools in the country, MIT. What a great experience that you had at MIT.
Was, yeah.
What was it like playing baseball and hockey at MIT, Henry?
Busy. I mean, there were times. It was great. I loved MIT, and I loved everybody there is very busy, doing a lot of things. There's a great spirit of inquiry. and people that just want to squeeze every drop out of everything they do. So playing baseball in that environment was great. Playing hockey was great. And there were times, let's say a doubleheader away, 2 hours away or something, all day, and I have a problem set due and a test Monday or something, and I'm going, I went to MIT. I'm acting like a baseball player, but it was very good. Made some great friendships. So I would recommend MIT to anyone. Very good environment.
Henry, what I love about MIT also, they have, I think, the best global online educational program out there. I think
they were a leader in that. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, kids from all over the world can go to, what is it? Is it mitonline.edu or something like that?
Yeah. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Something. Yeah. So if you're listening, let's say you're in Lagos, Nigeria, or Athens, Greece, or Indonesia, or anywhere in the country, or here in Pawtucket, Massachusetts or Rhode Island, you can go on to MIT's website and you can learn.
The very same curriculum that the students have. Yeah. Very bold. They opened up all the courseware. Yeah. Very good move.
Yeah. Great move. And as we know, there's a correlation between, education and I think prosperity and peace, prosperity, happiness. There's a direct correlation. So the more educated our world is, I think the more peace we'll bring to the planet.
Well, MIT tries to solve the world's problems, which is an interesting objective.
It's a wonderful objective, and that might be a good segue, Henry, because we let's talk about you. You went to MIT, and you also were in a fraternity. We are Phi Alpha brothers.
That's right. Yeah.
And for all of you that don't know what Phi Alpha means, it's a greeting that we have in the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity.
Yeah, without knowing it, that's the one I joined. That was your fraternity. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe it's one of the oldest fraternities in the country.
Was your dad also SAE at SU?
My dad was a deek.
Oh, okay.
Deek at Syracuse, and his Deek fraternity brother was Dick Clark of American Bandstand.
Wow.
And Roy Simmons, the great lacrosse coach. So you joined a fraternity. You were, fraternity, 2 sports, and graduated in 4 years?
Yeah. Yeah, it was busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look at you. Look at you.
Yeah, but well, I got hit in the head a lot. So football, and I love football, but I don't like. I saw this. I don't know if you saw Monday Night Football. There was a collision that it was head to head, and the defensive back hitting one of the Green Bay Packers players hitting a 49er receiver. And it was unfortunate because they kind of just glossed over it. And Henry, I guess the closest we have to the gladiators, well, you have the MMA, the boxing, which is pretty brutal. And then you have American football, which is,
we had a high school player here in town die this week. They had the funeral this week. He got a concussion in a second hit, repeated.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Henry, yeah, we really need to take the head out of the game. And Henry, about hockey because you played the game, you've coached it, and you have a son, by the way. Let's get a little props. Your son, Cody.
At Exeter, yeah.
Phillips Exeter. I think he's the first Dotterer to ever go to
First
Phillips
Dotterer.
Exeter.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the great schools. They were founded in 60?
I think they're about 240 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Great school.
Yeah. 1780 or so.
And Cody's playing hockey.
Right.
Yeah. I talked to him yesterday. He said the season starts in November. So let's talk about that. Hockey, because hockey, there's collisions. Do you think hockey's done a better job of taking the head out of the game than American football?
I think it's probably easier to do it. it's a different dynamic. I mean, the helmets are smaller. The collisions are not as forceful. I think you don't have players the same size, and the body posture is different. So USA Hockey talks about heads up hockey. In whatever situation you're in, the posture can be a head up. I'm not sure that's true in football. Where you're making a tackle. So, or maybe it is, but
No,
it's a
you're
little
right.
different, isn't it?
No, you're right, Henry. That's a great point. And I hope this goes out to the, whoever's watching this, send it out to your friends, because what Henry just pointed out, hockey, as you said, it's heads up, right, Henry? They're teaching heads up.
Yeah, gotta have the head up, yeah. And
Yeah,
then they can have rules like, any head contact gets a penalty. And I think that'd be difficult in football. It's just different. It's tougher to do it in football, I guess. But they're doing it in hockey now. And I think it's been helpful. You still get a lot of concussions.
Yeah. But probably not as many as in football.
Yeah, not sure. I think we should wear helmets like football. I mean, we have these thin helmets. I say, why we got these thin, tiny helmets, You
Right.
guys have big helmets,
Well, here's the thing. The helmets protect you for skull fractures.
Right.
Or facial fractures. But they don't prevent CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I always say encephalopathy. Anyway, CTE. What causes CTE is the constant shaking of the brain going back and forth. So CTE is subconcussive. It's just like the quarterbacks. I think Andrew Luck, I think it was wise of him to retire, because every time he gets tackled, his helmet hits the ground. And when your helmet hits the ground, that's when the brain is rattling. And when the brain goes back and forth too many times, they've done the research. That's what causes the tau protein in the CTE, which, again, the three symptoms of CTE are memory loss. So, Henry, in about 10 years, if I call you Jack, don't take it personal. And second is depression. And, that's everyone's. I mean, obviously, this pandemic, the last, year and a half, has been, a lot of people have been depressed about that. Well, if you have traumatic brain injury, you're even deeper depression. So, and then the third symptom of the head being rattled around too many times is emotional control. And I was exemplifying that this morning when I was moving money around, and I don't know where the money went, so I got emotional about the money. And that's where Club Nirvana and cannabis comes into play. It really has helped me calm me down, because when you lower your anxiety and stress, your immune system is enhanced. So thank you, Club Nirvana. Thank you, the cannabis world. Namaste. But back to what you said, Henry. I think what needs to happen, this is just my own opinion. I'd love to have you talk about this. I think American football should get rid of the helmet, soft shell, what it used to be, and you won't go in with your head, because if you go in with your head, you don't have a face. That's my theory.
What's the happens in rugby or Australian rules? Do they have helmets? I mean, do they see concussions like we do?
No, I mean, they do have,
or CTE like we do, or.
Well, I think rugby, in my opinion, humble opinion, rugby right now is a safer sport. If you're between birth, when you're born, from birth to 18, I encourage parents, if they have a son or a daughter that wants to, likes to tackle and loves that, type of sport, I encourage them to play rugby, because they're going to learn how to tackle. And then after they turn 18, if they want to go play American football in college or semi-pro or whatever, then that's right. Their choice. That's their choice.
In lacrosse, the girls don't wear helmets, where the boys do. Did you know that? Around here, anyway.
No, I've seen that. Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. And because they don't wear helmets, I'm sure the rules, you can't just go whack someone on the head, right?
Right. Yeah, the rules are different.
You'd probably be, if you did that, you'd probably be expelled for a long time.
Right. Yeah. They don't allow that sort of stick contact in the same way. And I think there's something about shooting too. You gotta clear the shooting lane or something. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I could wave my wand right now and I were a billionaire, like, Warren Buffett, because we talked about earlier, Warren Buffett, I would start a league. It would be American football, but it would be with the soft shell helmet. That's what I would do. And so if there's any billionaires out there, I think there's kids that want to play, and I think there's an opportunity there. But I don't have the billion yet.
You'll have to hire your friend, the lawyer. Who was it? Who was that lawyer friend of yours? JJ, was it?
JJ Lasley?
Yeah. You'll need him he'll have to iron out all the
yeah,
JJ without helmets. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, JJ is a great guy. He just got married, by the way. JJ just got married into Irina. Irina's from the Ukraine. Well, I say Russia. She's from Russia, but I want to say Ukraine, but she's Irina. So shout out. Congratulations to JJ Lasley.
Congratulations, JJ.
Yep. One of the great running backs, Stanford University, and NFL player, played for the Vikings and the Packers. So getting back on topic. So Henry, you then left MIT and you went to work for Motorola. And did Motorola bring you to Japan?
MIT had a Japan program where there were certain sponsor companies, and you could go do a year in Japan and then come back, and the sponsor companies would recruit you. So Motorola was one of the sponsors. I met them after completing my year in Japan. So they hired me into a department that was serving Japanese customers. I worked in their engine control unit division, and Honda was our customer.
And that's when you met a very special woman.
Well, I met her when I was at Nissan.
Okay, Nissan.
When I was in Japan, yeah. I met my wife, Rumi Anastasia Dotterer, yes.
And she's an amazing woman. She is what we call a rising firebird, the Phoenix.
The Phoenix, yeah.
Which is INFJ.
Uh-huh.
And the most famous phoenixes that I know are Buddha and Jesus. Personality-wise. We're talking, by the way, if people think I'm crazy, we're talking about Myers-Briggs, which is based on Carl Jung's work. Carl Jung was a famous psychologist, Austrian psychologist, who was friends with Sigmund Freud. And we all have different personalities. Would you agree with that, Henry?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I was skeptical at first, but yeah, it's kind of impressive when you actually do it. And when who is it? Your other friend,
Alex von Ullman?
Yeah. I mean, the stuff he's got available for the different animal names, and it does seem pretty applicable.
Yeah. It's Zodian. If anyone wants to know more about this, you can go to Zodian.com, and actually Reader John on the dot has been brought to you by Zodian.com, Zodian. You can read all about the fun and it's based on Myers-Briggs, and so you
do a quick test, and it tells you what your personality type is, and you'll be an animal that represents it, like my wife being a phoenix, or what am I again? What am I most recently?
Well, Henry, again, remember my memory here. So you're not. I thought you were an eagle.
I forget. Yeah. What was Cody?
No. Cody. Okay. I'm going to give you the choice. Actually, this is good. I'm going to give you the choices, and you tell me, because here are the different Zodian choices are, and you it'll come back to you, because the reason Alex came up with this is because people forget the letters. So
right.
There's a beaver.
Beaver, right.
Who's a beaver? Do you know anybody that's a beaver?
Cody was potentially a beaver, yeah.
Okay, Cody's a beaver.
Yeah.
And a beaver is, they get stuff done. And I could see Cody as a beaver. I mean,
yeah.
Beavers
working. Yeah. So those, when you have a group of questions that are seemingly unrelated, and from that you can create a matching animal that it's a pretty good match. That's pretty. It's fascinating how that
Well, let
works.
me ask you, Henry, are you, because I really want, I don't think you're a crane and I don't think you're a dove. I don't think you're a dragon. I thought you were an eagle, and Alex is a griffin. My mother's a horse. John Elway's an octopus. Didn't one of your children was an octopus? Was that Saku?
Could have been, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Orca, most famous orca in the last 4 years is Donald Trump. For all of those orcas. And then there's an owl. Could you be an owl?
I suppose, yes.
And then there's a Pegasus, Phoenix, Ray, Retriever, or Seal. So I remember, see, this is the thing. I remember when we did it, and you said, "Oh, Michael, this is what I am." None of those ring a bell?
No, I caught more. I remember it might have been Zodian, where there's a couple paragraphs describing that personality type, and they would like this and not like that, or they do well in this and not well in that, and they were so different, from character to character, and they worked. And I said, wait a minute, let me just, how horoscopes, they kind of work for no matter what, And I said, I'll try that. I'll try Lumi's on me. No, never in a million years. I'll try Lumi's on Lumi. Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, pretty neat. Worth checking out for your audience.
Yeah, well, Henry, I got to get to the bottom of this, because I remember you saying, "Oh, this is what I am," and the reason we've gone from letters to archetypes is it's easier to remember. And I'm a Pegasus. I'm a flying horse, and I didn't know. There's a great Greek aphorism that we're all familiar with: "Know thyself." And so let's go. That's a good segue, because I want to talk about Reader John. And Reader John, you got married. You have 3 beautiful children. That's Cody, Joey, and Saku, and they're all great athletes. I mean, I think you and Rumi have done an amazing job as parents. But you also have this spiritual side of you, and it's amazing. And I'm going to just actually put up the ticker tape. And there it is. For more information about the Orthodox faith, you can go to that website. That's SS Peter and Paul's Syracuse, or OCA.org. So Henry, I'm going to give you you're going to be on the dais, the dais.
Okay.
Because every Sunday you probably have a few words to say, right?
No, I don't speak. I'm a reader, so I would I read the Bible. I would read the epistles, Paul's epistles, or reading from the Acts of the Apostles. But yeah, not speaking freely. I do talk about my faith elsewhere with other people. So yeah, I mean, give me a question and I'll approach it that way.
The question, okay, here's a question. My father and your father were brothers, and their mother, our grandmother, Aunt Catherine Bradshaw Dotterer, she was devout Irish Catholic. And we had a grandfather, Henry John. He was Henry John Sr. My dad was Henry John Jr. And are you Henry John the fifth, or what are you?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Wait a minute.
And Cody is also Henry John, of course.
Cody is okay. Yeah. Cody is all right. There we go. So the legacy continues. Right. Or the tradition continues.
There were 5 generations of Henry John Dotterer living in that house, that brick house.
Wow.
Because Grandpa's father stayed there.
Wow.
So we had Grandpa's father, Grandpa, your dad, then I moved in there, thanks, with your help, and then Cody was born. So yeah, 5 generations in one house.
And Henry, I might be coming back to there again.
Anytime.
Well, hey, so Henry, so the reason this is the question. Our grandmother Catherine was a very devout religious woman in the Catholic faith. And your dad, who was brought up Catholic, he was the one that discovered the church that you grew up in. So talk about that. How does that happen? And then my father, as you know, my dad was, grew up in a time where in the 30s and the 40s, Catholicism had some problems. I think you could argue there was a movie. What was that movie that they made about the Catholic Church in Boston? It won a lot of awards. The whole thing about the priests and this is something that the Orthodox Church, the priests you call them priests?
Mm-hmm.
They can marry, right?
Right.
In the Catholic Church, they can't, correct?
Right.
What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so you're right. My father, I think the way that our family found the Orthodox Church, my brothers were born, Tony and Pat were born prematurely, and they were in an incubator, and the concern was that they might not make it. They were very premature and small, and I think he had some lack of satisfaction in the Catholic Church. Maybe some of it was related to the changes. It was Vatican II or something where there's some changes in the church. And he went looking for a church. He tried different churches and he found the Orthodox Church, St. Peter and Paul in Syracuse. That's the link. And it felt right to him. When I was a kid growing up, we would go 1 week to the Roman Catholic Church and 1 week to the Orthodox Church. My father's position was, it's true. I mean, the majority of the beliefs are the same. If you were to write out the dogmas, there's a lot of overlap and also some significant differences. But yeah, we would go to one and then the other. When our son was on the way, now we had a choice to make for baptism. And yeah, we decided on the Orthodox Church. I think that, the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church were once together. When they were together, priests could marry. They split sometime around the year 1000 AD. And, there have been some changes. I think there's been more changes on the Catholic side. So that's an example of one of them, the fact that priests cannot marry now, for the most part. I think there are some exceptions. But yeah, in the Orthodox Church, things have remained largely the same. Priests can marry, or what would some other differences be? With the Catholic Church, we have a difference in our creed. There's a small difference, but it's significant theologically. Talking about the Trinity, and the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father, we say, and the Catholics say from the Father and the Son. So, how that difference got introduced, how it went down, it has to do with, the Orthodox Church is very conciliar, I think is the word used. We had church councils. The Orthodox Church is very unique in its administrative structure. As far as I know, there's not one head to the Orthodox Church like there's a pope in the Catholic Church. We don't have one head. The highest rank in the Orthodox Church is bishop. And so like our bishop is Bishop of New York and New Jersey. And he kind of runs it how he runs it. The bishops talk to each other. And, I think if a bishop was doing something weird, maybe the other bishops would cease to recognize him and that sort of thing. But it's decisions made in the Orthodox Church are by consensus. So it feels, I think it's maybe part of what my father was picking up on. It feels familial. It feels flat. There's not the same feeling of kind of, the Pope and the hierarchy
Hierarchy, right?
this sort of thing. There's a hierarchy, no doubt, but I don't know. The hierarchy is Christ. Christ is the foundation, the rock, and maybe you can feel that more directly in the Orthodox Church. I don't know. The Orthodox Church, I would say, is sort of the original church. It's interesting to us as Orthodox when we talk to maybe other Christians and they say our founder is whoever. It's the founder of their church, and we don't have a founder. Our founder is Christ. Our founder is Christ. If he built it on Peter and so on, but Christ founded the church, and so we have a continuous history. And it's interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a continuous history of the Orthodox Church that goes back to the apostles. And our bishop was ordained by a bishop who was ordained by a bishop who was ordained way back by an apostle of Christ. So there's a lot of tradition that's handed down in addition to the Bible. That it's a rich tradition that comes down from the apostles and the saints and the early church fathers and so on. So it's a very rich church. It's global, and over the centuries and millennia, it's been shown to be to provide a resource and a framework, and most importantly, a community and a body that can help you get salvation. So you talked earlier about cannabis giving you a calmness, or we talk about MIT solving the world's problems. I've come to, my perspective certainly changed over time. When I went to MIT, I thought, we as humans can solve our problems. And I certainly wouldn't have gone first to God, for anxiety, or maybe I would if it was enough anxiety. Most people do when there's enough anxiety. No atheist in a foxhole, But I certainly have in the past tended to try to fix things myself, or go to technology or science or these things. And over time, my experience has been that we're limited in our understanding of the world. We're limited in our capabilities. Even when we try to do things that are good, I've seen, and when I've tried to do things that are good, maybe it didn't turn out good. And maybe I wasn't even trying to do things that were good. I've found the Bible to be the most accurate description, explanation of the world that we live in, the most accurate sort of how-to manual. That things I say, well, that's, when I first started reading the Bible, well, that's good. That's it. Well, that I don't know. And then, so I've just developed a lot more, trust and then you have a personal relationship with Christ, and it develops over time, supplemented or aided by the sacraments, receiving communion, and it's the Orthodox faith, I guess, has grown in me, and feels true.
Right. Well, and what's wonderful about the country that we live in here, and you're in upstate New York, right, Henry? You're there, upstate New York,
right?
Which is, yep, it's a beautiful part of the country. But the great thing about America is, our grandmother, Catherine Bradshaw, she practiced, Roman Catholicism, and you, as her grandson, are practicing the Orthodox faith, and someone coming from a Muslim country can come here and practice their faith, and we have religious tolerance in this country, which is wonderful. I mean, aren't there places in the world, Henry, where that doesn't exist?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you see varying degrees of persecution. It goes all the way to killing Christians or whoever, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, we have religious tolerance. We also have in our government separation of church and state. And so, as can I call you a man of the cloth as a reader or no?
I wear a robe. it doesn't sound applicable to be man of the cloth. I should mention, like, when I first started reading the Bible, like, you grow up in the church. You can grow up in the church, go every week, and never yourself of your own initiative open the book, right? So I'm one of those people that went a long time. And when our priest in the Orthodox Church encouraged me, hey, take up your own reading. I said, at some point, I said, okay, and I went to the Bible and I opened it to a page. And one of the first things I read in the translation that I had in my hand, it was the Apostle Paul saying, when I fight, I'm going to paraphrase and get wrong, but when I fight, I don't do it as though I'm shadow boxing. I said, shadow boxing, boxing, they had boxing. And I looked it up. And they did, and that's something about that appealed to me as someone who's I call myself an athlete, someone who aspired to be an athlete, and a boxing fan. I said, wow, the Apostle Paul he would fight, and he would fight for real, not like he's shadow boxing. And then he goes on to say something like, I beat my body into submission, when I train. You run as to win. And I thought, wow, I opened this thing and it appeals to me, in my athletic background. It caught me there. And it just doesn't cease to. There's no end of, you open it and it speaks to you in another way. And it just, amazing book. So to your viewers who haven't opened the book by themselves, maybe think they knew everything from hearing it in church, take that step and pray that God through Jesus would enlighten you. And I think he'll answer.
Right. Well, I know you're inspiring people. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and live on Twitch, which I don't know much about Twitch. Do you know much about Twitch?
Nope. I would never have guessed that I'm on it.
Yeah, we're live on Twitch.
Okay.
And we were going to go live on Periscope. Is Periscope still around?
I never knew it existed.
Well, there's so many wonderful tools out there to get the message.
I do like Clubhouse that you turned me on to, though.
Do you like Clubhouse?
Yeah, I've been on Clubhouse. Yeah, pretty consistently since you showed it to me. It's the first social network that I've really been hooked on a little bit.
Yeah. It's Clubhouse has transformed how we can come together and share ideas and collaborate and commiserate. It's truly amazing. And it was so successful that Twitter, Spotify, and what's the other one? There's another one. They came up with their version of Clubhouse.
Right.
The greatest form of flattery is imitation, right? So, well, Henry, it's you've gone from, as I said, a beautiful family. Your mom and dad, and your sister. You have your sister Bridget, your sister Kathy, your sister Marie, your brothers Anthony, Tony, and Patrick. And did we leave anyone else? Is that it?
Did you get them all?
That's it. Well, now the reason.
In case we did, there's Bridget, me, Tony, Pat, Maria, Kathy.
Oh, that's the chronological. Hey, you got to give me credit. My memory's working here, but people don't know. My father was the oldest, your Uncle Jack, and he had my sister Margot and I, my mom. Two of us. Then your father said, "Okay, we want to have a basketball team with maybe an extra man, a 6-man team. So that's 6-6, right? Is it 6?
Yep.
6. And then the next Dotterer that came was Aunt Nan. And Aunt Nan, devout Irish Catholic, and the Pope, I'm sure it would be saying, "Bless you, Aunt Nan." and Uncle Bill, who was wonderful. And Uncle Bill has transitioned. He's up there, but Aunt Nan is still here. And how many children did Aunt Nan have, Henry?
10, right?
10.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, more than the two put together, right?
Yep. So it got better and better, and all the cousins. I mean, let's name Can you name all the cousins, Aunt Nan's children?
Okay, you put me in the spot. Okay.
Yes.
So what? Katie, Mary, Amy, Ann, John, Billy, Julia, Johanna, Aaron. Who are we missing? Tommy. Did I get them all or no?
I think you did. Julie, did you say Julie?
Julia, yeah.
Julia,
Yeah.
Johanna, yeah. I think you did. But they a great family, and they lived on a farm. So I guess you can, they had cows and they had wheat and corn. So I guess when you're on a farm, you sometimes need, more children to help on the farm. And it's interesting. I don't know if anyone knows this, but when my mother's father was born in 1900, and the world's population, Henry, in 1900 was 1.9 billion. Today, the world's population is 7.6 billion. Henry, what are your thoughts about how do we, when you talk about global warming and, what does the church have to say about this and coming together and peace and working together to help our planet, help the animals? I was reading, there's animals that are going extinct, they're on the extinct list, and some have gone extinct. What are your thoughts? And where does the Orthodox Church stand on how do we live our life, and how do we leave when we transition this planet a better place? What do we need to do from a spiritual perspective?
Yeah, I'm probably not qualified to speak for the church, but I don't know, my own understanding, God is love. And to the extent that we're opening ourselves up to God's love through Christ, that love will flow through us, and we should the commandments, right? Jesus simplified the commandments: love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself, right? And those are connected, I think. So when we love God, we're capable of loving our neighbor. And if we are loving in that way, loving God and loving our neighbor, then, we're not grabbing for stuff, and, which leads to war and the fighting and the strife, and maybe the destruction of the environment. And, Christ said to follow him, deny yourself, take up your cross. So if we have a bunch of people that are loving God and loving their neighbor as themselves, and they're denying themselves and taking up the cross, which is our suffering and, ultimately death, or joining in Christ's death, which is a sacrificial thing, right? Then, yeah, we're probably not doing some of the things that we're doing, at least not to the same level. So, yeah, it's, that to me, it sounds like, well, is that an answer? Is that an answer to these things? I don't see another answer. It's one of the reasons that, it's one of the things that undermines my faith. I mean, just thinking through, is this going to solve this? No. I see some of the stuff going on now, the initiatives, which are maybe well-intentioned to, let's do something about this, or let's do something about that. And I look at the manner in which they're going about it, and it doesn't seem likely to succeed to me. Whether it be some of the stuff going on to try to solve racism or other sins, that doesn't look like it's going to be a solution to me. And then I said, well, what would be the solution? Getting back to our Creator and allowing His love to flow through us and accepting His healing. I think we as humans need God, and without Him can't really do anything good. So that's That's what I think. And you talk about transitioning, but I think maybe the Orthodox perspective would be, it's life is eternal. Of course, I guess you could use the word transition. Your body will die. We believe your body will be resurrected to either to life or to judgment. So to think of it as that's the end and that's it. But we think that's not it. There's more to it. The flesh matters, but there's the spiritual, and it's in a way all one thing. We pray, we ask the saints to intercede because one of the saints died. Our priest told us this. One of the saints died, and the people, the other monks or whatever, loved him and said, "What are we going to do when we don't have you to ask questions or talk to? Just keep talking to me like you've been." And he's still there. He's still, and he'll be praying for them, and we don't think it ends that completely or abruptly.
Well, Henry, or Reader John, I like that. Reader John, Cousin Henry. Wow. I do want to just make a side note. I think the last time I really felt like the country was moving in the right direction was when Dr. Martin Luther King, who was a reverend. I mean, I think, what you just professed there, that's what Dr. King was talking about.
Yeah. And I think to speak in more human terms, I think he was successful in achieving some progress. And I don't think he would have been successful if it weren't for him allowing God and Christ to work through him. I think that's the only way you can get a positive outcome.
Right. And I think, there's other people, obviously they have different faiths, but working, I know your faith is focused on Christ. There's other focused on, I think Gandhi, from what I've read about Gandhi is that, there's every faith, there's a higher force called God. And I think what we're discovering is that we can't do it by ourselves, right? We need some enlightenment. We need some enlightenment.
Yeah. I saw a presentation by a guy, and he was African American. He was speaking up on a stage, and he said, "I want to demonstrate something." He called up 3 volunteers, and he had 3 chairs, and he had someone sit in the middle, and then he had 2 people sit facing the person in the middle. And he said, "Okay, the person in the middle represents God, and these 2 people are us. And when we're facing God, we're also facing each other. But when we turn our back on God," he had them turn the chairs around. "Now we also don't see each other." And he said that's what's happening with race relations. And I picked that one because it's a current topic. But really any category. I mean, racism is a sin, right? Any category of sin or evil. We can say, well, I'll solve that, with my thinking but I think if we're not facing God, to me, it looks unlikely to succeed.
Yeah. Well, Henry, Reader John, Cousin Henry, we've had a wonderful discussion. We've gone almost 49 minutes.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
I'm grateful, Henry, Reader John. I am so grateful that you're my cousin, and you help me think about things beyond myself. And that's, I want to thank you for that. And I want, God bless you, and God bless your family and all the families out there that are listening. We come on. Again, we have special guests, and this was just a great opportunity. And what I love about this, Henry, this is going to be available for years and years. This recording.
Well, thank you. I want to thank all my Twitch followers, Periscope, everything,
Yeah. Well,
yeah. No, thank you. It was great. I mean, you're a guy that I love a lot of things about you, but one thing that I love is like you're in the moment. Like we just talked about this a couple of days ago. You're like, let's do it, and you just you got your heart out there all the time. So, whether you're thinking about it or not, that's that life in you, I think, comes from our Creator. and you've been blessed with a love and sensitivity that I envy. Another thing I envy, in addition to this.
Well, thank you. I must say that it comes from our grandparents. Remember our grandparents? They loved us. They shared their love, and my parents loved me, and your parents loved you, and and it's that love that really makes the world go around. And the love is, it's a spiritual. It's not and that's where our spiritual faith is very, very important, because we can't do everything by ourselves. There's things that are out of our controls, but as you said, loving God and being thy brother's keeper and sister's keeper, loving your neighbor as yourself, and doing unto others as you'd want them to do unto you. Where is that? What part of the Bible is that? Is there a famous phrase?
Does it come from that? That's the golden rule, right? I don't know. Yeah, I got to study more. That's why I'm failing the course.
No. So Henry, we should do it again. I'd love to have you. Anytime you want to come on the dot, if you have something that you want to share. We live in a most exciting time. I was with a friend of mine the other night who we went to college together. Her name is Corey Shockey, and Corey's worked in the White House. She's worked in the Pentagon. And she is so excited. She says, we live in the most exciting time ever in human history. Because, Henry, there's people that are going to listen to this in Japan. They're going to watch this, maybe, and you could never do that before. And we're live right now.
Amazing, yeah.
And for anybody that's out there, suffering or, wants more, I think whatever church you're going to, that can help give you that foundation. And then just know that there's so many great opportunities. We truly live in a world of abundance, and it's not scarcity. I'm an optimist, and I believe the world is becoming a better place. You just have to sometimes turn off the television set and not listen to either CNN or Fox. You got to be careful there, right? Because I know when I watch some of the news, I get all fired up, and I don't think Jesus would want that. I don't know, but at the same time, again, Henry, thank you, my brother, my cousin, and you get the last word, Henry.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that was a good last word from you. What would Jesus want? Yeah, read the Bible, see what you think.
Thank you, Henry. Don't hang up. I'm just going to end the broadcast wishing everyone a wonderful Wednesday, and God bless you, and God bless America, and God bless the world. God bless the world, whatever your faith is.
Lord have mercy. Yeah.
Lord have mercy. Or as namaste.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Henry. Don't hang up. I'm just going to click in the broadcast. Here we go.